Good evening.
Can you hear me okay? I think so. Thanks so much for coming. This is our second town hall. Does this seem really loud and echoey? Yeah.
Echoey, yeah.
Huh. I don't know what to do about that.
Just don't yell, Jerlene.
Okay. The first time that we did this was in the middle of February. We did not know what to expect. We thought, gosh, what if nobody shows up? Well, I guess we'll just go home early. But instead, we had a really packed house, standing room only. There was no more chairs. This time, we're like, we kind of figured we'd have less of a attendance, and we have empty chairs, but maybe that's a good thing. Maybe our community is getting more information from us and has many of their questions answered, and it's not as compelling to come out. So before we jump in, I wanted to chat a little bit about what these town halls are about. It is an opportunity for Cheyenne and myself, and by the way, my name is Geraldine Bryant. I'm the CEO of the Nevada Humane Society. It's an opportunity for us to share information about our organizations, what we're seeing here in Northern Nevada as far as the state of animal welfare, initiatives that we have, collaboration that we engage in between both of our organizations, our ongoing partnership and how that is evolving. And then we turn it over to all of you for any questions that you have. But we do have kind of some guiding principles and some ground rules for those questions. This is not like a government public meeting where there's 3 minutes of personal testimony or comments. This is truly for questions that are relevant to our organizations and the work that we're doing in the community. So I do want to caution you that if there are questions that do not fall within that category, we will opt to move on, not address those questions. We will invite you to reach out to our teams individually, but for the sake of the purpose of this town hall, we ask that those questions be thoughtful, be constructive, and be informational to the whole group. Behind us, we kind of have those ground rules a little bit mapped out.
I'm Cheyenne Schill. I'm the director of Washoe County Regional Animal Services. And also to add to what Geraldine mentioned, if there are questions or things that you all wish to discuss that maybe aren't on the topic for this meeting, I have a card in the back that's a general email that's checked by multiple folks. So feel free to pick one of those up and submit your inquiry and any additional topics that you wish to discuss. But thank you all for being here. As Geraldine has already mentioned, we appreciate you all turning up and showing up for updates from us. Again, we weren't certain what we would expect to see today, but I think the turnout for our first one was overwhelming, and I don't think we expected it. But I think what we're trying to do and the goals that we've been working on together for our community's benefit is to be more transparent and to share more information and to have that information that our community is hungry to understand and to know has been more readily available. And I think that that's part of the reason why we see less people turning out today. But nonetheless, we're here to provide some updates and be here for questions for all of you. And so with that...
Well, we should mention that we have 2 moderators that are helping us out. We have Art Westbrook from Washoe County Regional Animal Services has a mic, and then Melissa Davis from Nevada Humane Society has a mic. So they will kind of be facilitating questions. So with that, let's get going.
So what I would like to open up with is just a few of the updates that Animal Services has been working on and some of our programmatic goals and things that have happened since last time we all sat here and chatted. And as just a brief summary for those that may not have been here at the last meeting, you know that we share this campus. This is a Washoe County Regional Animal Services and Nevada Humane Society shares the campus. And so on my side of the building, we are the Lost and Found shelter. We do all the investigations for cruelty and the punitive approach to some of our non-compliant citizens in our community. We also do licensing and emergency response. In a nutshell, that's sort of what we do. And then the Nevada Humane Society serves to help a lot with a lot of the outreach things, the adoption for the animals that go unclaimed from our facility, and a whole host of other things. And so I'd like to talk about some of the things that we've been working on the county side to help with some of our efforts. And one of the updates that I'm excited to share is that we've not really had a volunteer program in the last 6 to 7 years. That's really been a very boisterous volunteer program. And so I have a program assistant that's been working pretty hard on developing a tiered program. So we'll have 3 tiers where volunteers can come in and help us and provide support to our team in all of the things that we do in terms of outreach events, helping with us things with the shelter cleaning and lost and found reunification efforts, and a lot of different various tasks. And so right now we're working on training for the volunteers, we're working on an orientation to bring on volunteers, and just a general oversight and management of the volunteers. So we're excited to be bringing that hopefully before the end of summer, to be bringing your volunteers. And so if anyone's interested, again, that card that's back there is the best email to reach out to us, and we'll get your name down as an interested person. One of the other things we've been working on for about 6 to 8 months is a revision of our fee schedule. And so our fee schedule has not been revised in 20 plus years for Washoe County. And so as you can imagine, many of the fees that we charge for services are outdated. And so we've been working with a vendor who has been doing some time studies and helping us develop a fee revision proposal that we're hoping to bring to the Board of County Commission sometime this summer, so that we can hopefully have increased fees for those services that we feel are not being adequately reimbursed for, that will help provide service funding for services that we continue to provide to our community. And so one of the other things I wanted to mention is we have an advisory board for our Washoe County Regional Animal Services Division, and that board meets every quarter. And so every code amendment, every fee schedule proposal goes to them first, and that is the public's opportunity to hear those proposals. And so I would encourage you all, if you're interested in learning more about those, you have some input you'd like to have heard, to please attend one of our advisory board meetings. We meet every quarter. Our next one is in July. I believe it's July 26th. And so you're welcome to attend those to hear any of the updates from Animal Services. And another thing we've been working on for several months is updating our animal cruelty ordinances. We haven't touched those ordinances in quite some time, and there's definitely a need to tighten some of those up and improve those so that we have the ability to provide better protection for animals in our community. And so we've been working pretty diligently on and working on amendments that will give us better tools to provide better protections, again, for animals in our community. And hopefully those amendments will be brought to the Board of County Commission for potential adoption before the end of this year as well. We received 2 disaster emergency evacuation trailers from Homeland Security. We got a grant for 2 trailers from Homeland Security. And so we're excited to implement those trailers into our tools and resources that allow us to have more assistance in evacuating pets in times of need. So if we have a fire, flood, any type of a human disaster, we can help individuals evacuate their animals and house them in these trailers. They're climate controlled, they have water and the ability to wash the caging on board. There's individual cages. And so we're super excited about those and happy to integrate those into our deployment this summer if we do have to deploy for any kind of emergencies, particularly fires this summer. And we recently added 2 microchip reunification stations. So I talked about this at our last town hall. We have 12 total microchip reunification stations throughout our region. All of the pet station stores in Washoe County have a microchip scanning station, which is set up to be self-serving, but also the store employees can help guide you if you find a lost pet. As a good Samaritan, you can take them to any of the pet station stores and scan them to see if they have a microchip and hopefully get those pets reunified without having to bring them to the shelter. We also added options veterinary clinic, and we've added 2 Truckee Meadows fire stations in the last couple of months. We have one out in Cold Springs, and we have one here in Reno. So we're hoping to, by the end of this calendar year, have every Truckee Meadows fire station on board with us to add many more microchip scanning stations. So giving the community the empowerment to get pets reunited. And then lastly, we're super excited to be working on a grant that we were awarded from Petco for a text program. So we received a $20,000 grant from Petco for a text program that we will enroll in that will essentially, if you lose or find a pet, you will text lost or found to a specific identified number, and then we will be able to create the messaging that will go automatically to the individual to help give you tools and resources to fill out a loss report, fill out a found report, check these social media pages, get updates from animal services about animals that may match the description of your pet. So we're excited about that. We just received the word that we received that grant about 2 to 3 weeks ago, so we'll be working on that over the next several months and getting that program implemented into our program. So those are sort of some of the overarching large programs that we've been working on at Animal Services, in addition to the day-to-day handling of lost and found animals, animal cruelty investigations, injured animals, all of the things that we do on a day-to-day basis. And we are bracing for the busy summer. Our work is very cyclic, and the summertime is our busy time, and we're getting ready for that and preparing for trying to meet the needs of our community and the animals that come to us. So that's kind of the gist of my update. So I'll turn it over to Jerlene.
That's a lot. You guys do a lot. Yeah. So as Cheyenne mentioned, so Nevada Humane Society is the adoption side of this building, primarily the adoption side. We have outreach programs as well. We offer vaccine clinics twice a week on Wednesdays and Sundays. We provide spay and neuter on Wednesdays for community cats or feral cats as part of our TNR program and supporting those caregivers in our community. We have an animal help desk that is part of a shelter diversion program where there is no magic answer, but we do the best we can to provide resources and support to members in our community that have animals and are facing some challenges. So whether that is, behavior challenges, we can point them in directions in our community where that can be where they can have find resources to help them. Maybe it's financial challenges where they are having a difficult time feeding their pets. We do have a pet pantry program. Last year, we distributed 60,000 pounds of dog and cat food to our community to help keep those pets in the homes with the families that love them. We do not want food to be, or lack of food and resources to be the reason that you give up an animal that you love and that loves you. So we offer that program to our community, resources 7 days a week. If we're open, then and someone needs assistance, they can come in, no appointment necessary, and get that food from our staff. But I wanted to touch on capacity, because capacity is something that we kind of live and breathe every day. Our side of the building and Cheyenne's side of the building, we see what their capacity is like clockwork twice a day. We're of course looking at our capacity. We have to kind of balance that because we transfer in animals from Washoe County Regional Animal Services every day, and we are also accepting animals from the public every day. So our capacity as of this morning was 70% for dogs. And 80% is where we really try not to go above 80%. It starts getting very uncomfortable for us to not have that excess space in our kennels. It makes it challenging if we have to accept, more emergency surrenders than we had anticipated. If we have to quarantine an area, it just limits our ability to be responsive and flexible with our kennel space. So as of this morning, it was 70%. In February, middle of February, we hit 80% capacity, and we kind of hovered. It went up, it went down for a period of time. Several times we hit 90%. That's very uncomfortable for us. So while we like to see 70% and we don't want to see above that, we were happy to kind of see it come down. Last year, our intake of animals was just under 10,000 animals for our organization in 2023. The first 4 months of this year, so stats through April, we have taken in 2,193 animals already. Those are animals that very rarely do they not need many resources from us or much support. Many of those animals need extensive medical care, at the very least spaying and neutering and vaccines, care every day, enrichment, all of these things that these animals need as they kind of make their way through our organization, waiting to go to their forever home. And so it is a lot. I think a lot of times people think that it's kind of like the animals come in and they go right back out, and that is not necessarily the case. We do daily pathway planning for our animals. What is it that they need? Sometimes they don't need a whole lot. Sometimes they need a lot, and we want to make sure that we are addressing them as best we can based on the resources that we have available to us. We are seeing exponentially higher rates of publicly surrendered animals to us than we have in previous years. We saw that at the end of 2023, and we are certainly seeing it this year. So through, again, the first 4 months, so through April, our cat intake, we accepted in from a variety of different ways, whether it was animal services or whether it was from the public, 1,100 cats, to be exact, 1,097 cats. From Washoe County Regional Animal Services, 659 of those cats were transferred in. We received 1,003 dogs so far this year. So for a total, again, with other small animals, 2,193. I can say that our publicly surrendered cats from the public is up 59% year to date over this period of time last year. 59% more cats surrendered from the public, and for dogs it's 31% more. So it is a challenge, and we are doing our best to promote adoptions, to get these animals back out. We are seeing with the smaller animals a shorter length of stay. Dogs under 25, 30 pounds, they have a much shorter length of stay than those larger dogs, the shepherds, the huskies, the pit bulls, that tend to hang around a little bit longer. So we are doing everything we can, again, to move those dogs out as quickly as possible, because this isn't the place we want them to stay for extended periods of time. We should just be a short stopping point to have their needs met as they move on to their forever homes. On our horizon, we have done a lot in this last year. If you're around for any period of time, you'll hear me say that this last year was very intense for myself and for our team, as we made a lot of improvements, standardized many of our processes and procedures, and improved the housing and well-being of the animals in our care to adhere with ASV guidelines, which is the Association for Shelter Veterinarian Guidelines, that is a resource in animal sheltering for any organization that has a brick and mortar building and houses animals. That is a great resource for us. As we move forward in the year, we are going to work together even more closely to collaborate and partner on many of our shared initiatives, because while we are separate organizations, we are in this building together, and we have a close partnership, and it works for the animals in our community. We will be expanding on our community spay and neuter programs. We're going to be expanding on our foster program, although I am really proud of that foster program because in 2023, we had 2,745 animals that were fostered and received life-saving care in our community outside of this shelter while they were either getting old enough, they were neonatal kittens to get old enough to come in and be spayed and neutered, or a dog or cat recovering from, an injury or medical procedure, or maybe just getting a break because they weren't thriving in a shelter environment and they needed a break. So we cannot thank our community enough. And if anyone in this room is interested in fostering, well, my information is in the back, and Nevada Humane Society information is in the back. But, we also will be expanding on our community outreach programs, many of those offering post-adoption support. That is an initiative for, I want to say, the near future. I can't put a date on that exactly. We are establishing a behavior department at NHS, an actual behavior department, and we currently are advertising nationally for a behavior and transfer manager, and then we will have support staff that we will hire for that. So the list really does go on, and we both could really just talk about our organizations and all the hard work and the great things that are happening. But we do want to make sure that we actually have an opportunity to share about some of our collaborative work that we've been doing, and then turn it over for any questions.
So we alluded to last time, if any of you were here, that we've been working through some, I call them work sessions, to really sort of work on our partnership and improve our partnership for the community's benefit and the animals who live in our community and the people who love them. And so we're happy to say that we've been hard at work on those work sessions
for months.
Since last summer. It's been almost a year that we've been working on them. And so we have been really putting the rubber to the road and really trying to put some action items together in addition to the day-to-day work that we're doing. And so we have 5 shared goals that I'd just like to provide overviews of what those goals are and sort of what they mean. And some of them we've implemented some things, and some of them are yet to come. But we are working really hard to have a standardized behavioral agreement on the animals that we deem unsafe for our community. That will be a shared benchmark. And so Jerlene's behavior professional and our behavioral professional have been working with us. We've had some joint meetings. We've been working through the criteria that will help us determine what are the things that we deem dangerous to be putting out into our community, so that we can have a better, more fluid transfer rate of animals leaving our facility into theirs, and have a clear understanding about those pathway plans and making sure that animals are expeditiously being transferred over. And so that's one of the things that we most recently met and worked on, and we have more work to go with that. Our behaviorists are putting together a presentation for us to relate to our teams, so that our teams understand where we're going and what it means. And so for my team in particular, when animals come into us, that very first contact of an animal, whether it be over the counter or whether an officer picks it up, there's going to be evaluation forms that are going to have to be filled out by my team. And so it's going to involve some work and some effort from both of our teams to make this work. But there's going to be a lot more, I think there'll be a lot more better product in the end, in terms of if animals are, if we don't know, if animal services comes across a stray animal, we don't know their history. We don't know if the animal has been owned by a person recently, or if it's been running the streets for a few months. We don't know the history. And so capturing any of that information on their behavior is helpful to the overall outcome of the animal, and what is safe for that animal, and what's the best environment for that animal too.
And what is safe for our staff and volunteers as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so we also are striving for a percentage of transferability, so that again, we're having some type of benchmark that we can all agree on. And so we're hoping for an 80% transferability of animals from animal services to the Humane Society. And so that helps us plan. It helps us to understand what are the number of animals that we're hoping to be able to move. It helps the Nevada Humane Society plan, and everyone's on the same page. And so that's one of the things that we've come to an agreement on. The other thing that we wanted to have a better handle on is having more cohesive and united efforts for things that we're working on for the community's benefit and again for the animals. Working together from intake to adoption on animals that come into us. Again, it kind of ties into that goal that I just talked about, where animal services will be agreeing to capture more information to try to help identify some of those behavioral things, and to try to be able to, give NHS and other rescue partners as much information as we can so that animals do find the right outcome and the right home, and it's better for the community and safer for the community. And then that data sharing that I sort of alluded to, that information has been shared by Animal Services and now more recently by Nevada Humane Society in terms of animals that are coming in, how are they coming in, how are they going out, and what is euthanized for us. We don't have those numbers included, and being very transparent with what's happening. It's sort of our report card, and it gives the community sort of an insight to what's going on and what are we dealing with. How many animals came into our shelter last week? How many animals left? How did they leave?
Mm-hmm. Yours goes out Thursdays, right?
Ours comes out on Thursday.
And ours is Mondays, metric Mondays.
And so we're trying to help the community get just a glimpse of the inside of the shelter and what's happening and what are the sheer number of animals that come into our doors. And I don't think the community at large understands that. There's so many animals that come into Animal Services every single week that are lost. And so many of them thankfully get reunited and they do go home, but some of them do not. And so those animals sometimes end up at the Humane Society. And so understanding how our partnership works, the numbers that we're dealing with, I think is really helpful to our community. Do you want to take the last two, Julie?
Okay. So the fourth initiative, public communication, outreach, and response, increased community awareness and understanding. So again, it kind of taps into the data that we share. Again, ours goes out on Mondays. Cheyenne's team puts theirs out on Thursdays, but also, again, collaborating on joint messaging for our community. So an example is our community CAPS messaging and, really trying to help the community understand that when you see a healthy ear-tipped cat, please leave it where it's at. Please don't bring it. It does not belong in a shelter, but that's part of an education program. And so we just recently started kind of that messaging. And so that will be evolving, and we will be messaging more and getting, hopefully, trying to get a little more creative too, and trying to get that message out to our community. Also, we are in the beginning stages of our education campaign on, leaving dogs in cars in the summer, that even 70 degrees is too warm to leave your dog in a car. And it's surprising, so many people just don't know that. And so we will be messaging and educating more on that. We are coming up to 4th of July. We know what that means for animals in our community and how many of them go missing. And so really promoting we're in the beginning stages of that as well, gearing up for our messaging to our community about identification and the different forms of identification and how incredibly important it is. And if your animal goes missing, what to do. And that's just some of the messaging that we collaborate on. Also, kind of circling back around to capacity. When either of our organizations has met or exceeded our capacity to care, again, Nevada Humane Society's is 80%, Animal Services, that benchmark for you guys is 70%. And if we are at that capacity for a number of days, then we put out messaging to our community, letting our community know where we're at and the ways that they can help us. And we collaborate on that messaging and share each other's messaging as well, just to try to get to as many people in our community as possible. Did I miss anything there as far as messaging? And then that fifth shared goal, managing, of course, the regional animal population and pooling our resources to educate and provide programming to minimize overpopulation challenges in our region. So, yeah, that is a big one. Yeah, it is a big one. It's a very broad statement. We have challenges, just like I was addressing earlier, as far as the sheer number of animals that are coming through our doors the sheer number of animals that are being surrendered from the public. I don't know if this is good news or bad news, but we're not unique in our area. This isn't something that is happening in a silo just with us. This is happening across the country. I know Cheyenne and I both are engaged and tapped into animal welfare community on a national level. So we participate in national calls and webinars and conferences and watch closely national data from Shelter Animals Count, which is a national data kind of collection and sharing organization. And while it's not helpful to know that this, the rest of our country is suffering with this, number of animals coming through our doors, on one hand, we know that we're not doing anything wrong. It's not that it's happening here and isn't happening around the country, but we are all struggling to find ways to deal with it as best as we can. And that is something that is, we can't be complacent. It's something that we have to be engaged in and be forward thinking and really try to be proactive and think outside the box to address, that number of animals that is in our community and that is seeking help with our organizations. So it's a lot. What do you want to add?
We talked about this at length last time, spay neuter programming.
Yeah.
Some of the things that we'll be working on.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of the programming that I mentioned that our team is working on, the mitigative empowerment to our community to help get pets reunified. Not every animal that's lost belongs in the shelter. As a matter of fact, a lot of them do not belong in the shelter. And so statistics prove that most dogs that get loose from their homes are found less than a half a mile from their home. And so when we start helping our community understand what are the best methods for getting pets reunited and keeping them out of the shelter, I think that will help to the overall goal as well. So there's a lot of things that fit into that fifth goal that I think are ultimately overall going to help us with the population challenges and sort of that old school way of sheltering that we have to move away from because it simply doesn't work in today's world and the needs of our communities today. And so we've got to get creative, as Jerome indicated, and find new ways to do the old business. And I know I've said that before. It is true. And it is definitely commanding us to think that way and to start thinking about different ways to do things.
And increasing our capacity is not one of them. So more kennels doesn't solve the problem because there isn't more adopters. We can't make more adopters. So all that does is warehouse animals and give them a longer length of stay in an environment that we don't want them in, because most animals don't thrive in a shelter environment, no matter what we do to try to make it as good as possible. So we have to, it's spay and neuter, it's programs to mitigate the number of animals being born, and then, of course, do everything we can to decrease the number of animals that are being surrendered. So.
And then one last thing before we turn it over to questions, I wanted to mention that we held a foster event that was actually hosted largely by Bonnie Broom from Options on the Humane Network. In this room, we had a foster event where we invited multiple rescue partners. The SPCA was present, the Humane Society was present, as well as a multitude of rescue partners that are largely foster home based. And so what that means is that if they transfer animals from a shelter, they don't have a brick and mortar facility to put them into. And so that means they rely on individuals such as yourselves to take in an animal into your home temporarily to provide care until that animal could be found a permanent home. And so the event was focused specifically for fostering. And that is the one most powerful tool that we can do to prepare our shelters for the busy season, is being able to exponentially house more animals through foster homes and support our smaller rescue groups, as well as our larger rescue groups who rely on fosters. And so we had 17 rescue partners that showed up recruiting for foster homes in our community, and a website was created that I wanted to share in case you hadn't heard of it. It's fosternevada.org. And so we collected a multitude of partners who wish to be listed on the page with their contact information. So if anyone that you know is interested in fostering, you can simply log on to that website, and there's a contact information for a multitude of rescue partners that kind of helps to centralize people that want to help, but they don't know where to start. And that was one of Washoe County's issues when we were reaching capacity last year. People would contact us and say, well, how can we help you? Well, we don't do adoptions and we don't have a foster program. So I was really limited on what I could tell people that they could do. I go foster from a rescue partner, so it opens up a place for another animal to go. But where do I start would be the question then. And so this website really was designed to help point people in the direction to start to think about and maybe apply for being a foster for one of our rescue partners. So there are some stickers in the back that if you're interested, you can take some of those, but please share. Sharing is caring, and letting our community know how they can help us. Fostering is a big one. Of course, volunteering and donating is also very helpful. But the other thing I wanted to throw out there is follow our social media, because we're putting updates on there about things that we're doing and help that we need. And so help us by following us and attending these town halls and our advisory board meetings. That's where the updates are being provided. And a lot of work and thought goes into those updates. So if people are interested and they want to hear and to help us, those are the places to hear the information. Not that there's anything you want to add to that, but just wanted to throw out how can the community help us. So those are some of the ways.
Same for us. I'll put a plug in for our social media as well. We put a lot of updates on our social media. When we have a particular need for pet pantry food, because that is primarily supplied by really caring and generous community members. And oftentimes we find ourselves with empty shelves. And we've actually had to go out even recently and purchase food to be able to give to our community. But so when we have a need, when there is something we particularly want to highlight, and sometimes we just want to highlight an amazing adoption story or something that is just really heartwarming, and we want our community to know about it. And so that's on our social media as well. So
I think that sort of concludes our organized agenda. So we're happy to entertain questions, and Art and Melissa can hop around the room with the mics and help you with questions that you may have.
So anything? Or did we just do such a good job by sharing so much information? I know, right?
I'm just curious. The SPCA had a supplied dog food program that was very generous, and I understand they were often supplied by Farmer's Dog, and I think Walmart and maybe Petco. Are you receiving food from any corporate donations, such as I understand the SPC was?
I think we are receiving some food from Trent. Maybe you can help me with that. We do receive it from private community members. I think we are getting some from PetSmart Charities. Can you answer that?
Yes, absolutely.
Or not PetSmart Charities, but
Another large chunk comes from PetSmart distribution.
Yeah.
On the WCRAS Parkway. We do occasionally get from other locations as well, like KB Grace Foundation, when they have food that comes in. We're kind of always keeping our ear to the pavement to hear where there's new sources coming from, same as we know our friends at SPCA do.
And in addition to that, I'll add that Washoe County also has a program, a pet food program for seniors that we do a distribution at the senior center on 9th Street once a month. And we partner with the SPCA, and so we get the food that gets donated to them. They allocate a specific amount for Washoe County to be able to rebag into smaller bags and distribute to our seniors in our community. And trust me, they line up every month for that pet food. So it's quite the event.
Yep.
that's a great question, though. Thanks for asking.
Follow a mailing list.
Oh, okay. Well,
I don't want to be any voter. I don't want to be greedy.
No.
If anyone else wants to hear. So anyway, I really am curious because I did come down and I am an ancient 73 years old, and I did receive, I think, 2 bags one day.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was told I couldn't come back. I know. So I was really, honest to God.
Who's
And
organized?
it was on the Humane
Okay.
Society, and I was very surprised. But a young man helped get the food, and he helped me get it into the car because I have very bad back. And he said, "Oh, here, take this card. Contact so and so. You can't come back."
Yeah.
But I was actually coming in even on, I hate to say it, but the elderly program. And I had a change in my finances, et cetera. So,
Okay. Melissa, can you get her a card, and I'd really like to follow up with you on that particular situation to learn more about it. Yeah.
Now,
Okay.
does anyone else have a question?
Oh, well, looks like we have a question here, and then we'll come back to you. Here comes Melissa Art. Thank you.
Oh, my feeling theory? Yeah. Okay. So I know there's always more to do in animal rescue. Couple questions. First one is, any definitive spay-neuter plans? That is a big one.
That's a good question.
That's a good one. Yeah, for cats or dogs?
Cats mostly, but
Okay. So for community cats or friendly indoor cats?
all of the above.
Okay. Okay. Well, I can tell you that on Wednesdays, we offer spay and neuter services to community cats. And so that can be colony caregivers, trappers in the community. I know that we have had capacity on Wednesdays. Here's the thing. We have not shouted it from the rooftops because the moment we do, we can't meet that demand, right? It's kind of a catch-22. We know, believe me, internally, spay and neuter, that if I could count the number of times, if I had a quarter for every time that word is said during the day, like we would have more funding. Yeah. So nobody is more motivated than we are. Last year, Nevada Humane Society spayed and neutered 7,200 animals. Now, some of those were animals in our community. The majority of those were animals that came through our adoption program, but those were still animals in our community that are going out sterilized. So it is not that we are not spaying and neutering, and I'm not saying that you think that, but I do want to make it really clear that it isn't that we're doing very few numbers. Over 7,000 spay and neuter surgeries is a lot, while also other surgeries and dentals and meeting the needs, just medically of so many animals. So again, Wednesdays, we are very close to opening up 2 other days a week for cats, primarily. The reason that we're focusing on cats initially is that we have the space pre and post-op to house them before their surgery and after their surgery. And for dogs, we have more limited space. For cats, we can get more creative. So all I can say is watch our social media, because believe me, the moment we are able to really kind of open those floodgates, we are going to be shouting it from the rooftops. So, yeah. Thank you for asking. Any other questions? Did you have another question? Okay.
Just make
No.
keep us going. I was curious too. I believe the SPCA has been conveyed to me. Supplies, they do get such an abundance of food corporately. And so some of the people who collect that food are with 501Cs, which also receive grant money. And so I was just left to wonder, if there is an emphasis, besides anyone who's older, if your programs here really reaching out to the veterans, the street people, the people who fall on hard times, and how exactly are you qualifying people to receive aid?
Well, I can start for our program, because our program specifically started for the senior population. In Washoe County, a senior is classified by anybody who's over 60 years of age. And so we started with the senior center and doing the pet food distribution there. My officers have since been adding food to their trucks. And so when they encounter someone out in the field that needs help, they can give them resources. Sometimes it goes beyond food. Sometimes it's other things that they may need, leashes and supplies to keep their pets. And so that program has grown slightly, but we don't really have the bandwidth to do more. It's quite a task to rebag all the food for the seniors that we do, and I think that we did 1,500 pounds last month. So it's an incredible amount of work to get it rebagged and ready to distribute to the seniors. But in addition to the seniors that show up to the senior center, we have homebound seniors. And so in addition to the Meals on Wheels program, we have food that goes out to those individuals who are shut-ins and not able to get out, and they have pets. And so we know that sometimes the food that is meant for the person goes to the animal if they don't have resources to feed their pets. And so we do expand our program to those individuals as well. But in terms of beyond that, we don't really have the capability on Washoe County's side.
I can say that for Nevada Humane Society, I can't say that we have never helped out an entity or an organization. I'm sure at some point in time we have. Our primary focus is on those owned pets in our community and colony caretakers. We do provide quite a bit of food to colony caretakers that are caring for those free-roaming community cats. We do want that, so whether someone is homeless or a veteran or senior, or, they may have normally, maybe they have an income that, meets their needs, and they have just temporarily fallen on hard times. That's where we want to lend that helping hand. Now, I want to understand more about the situation that you described, because if somebody can't come in every day for bags of food. So we do limit, because we are trying to meet the needs of a lot of people in our community. We do limit how much food and how often they can come in and get food. But that's also a conversation. We do want to understand, how many pets are you feeding? And are those pets spayed and neutered? Because, while we aren't shouting from the rooftops that we have a robust community spay and neuter program, we do frequently help the individuals with situations when they have animals that they're in a tough place, and we want to make sure that those animals, and maybe they have males and females that are intact, we want to make sure that those animals are not reproducing. And so again, while it may not be that established program that we are open to the public, we do a lot for our community on an individual basis, trying to meet the needs of in particular families. Yeah.
Oh, I knew that the SPCA had a spay and neuter program.
So when you're talking about SPCA,
No, over on.
okay, you're actually SPCA. Okay, I just, all right.
So that's what I'm questioning. See, I didn't know. Do you have a spay and neuter program that is up and running equivalent to theirs? My understanding is I had just started taking in my first dog, and it called for the second dog to be neutered. And they do it for $100. Is your program, is it structured that way?
No, not at this time. Not for owned dogs. In fact, I don't know enough about SPCA's program at the moment. At last I heard that they had suspended their public spay and neuter program because of a veterinarian shortage. I don't know. I don't want to put words in there. I don't know for sure. But yeah, okay. So there is a shortage of veterinary professionals on a national level. Currently we are advertising for another veterinarian. We hope to have that position filled in the next few months. I remain optimistic, and more veterinarians and more bodies in our clinic allows us to expand our services to the community. It is certainly not a matter of willingness. It's just a matter of, we have to meet the needs of our shelter animals first, and then we can expand out to our community. Melissa?
Melissa's palms.
Cheyenne, I was just curious. I know that the county has a lot to already handle or whatever. Is there any way that maybe we could promote more leash law, or is there a way that us as citizens can actually promote that more? I feel a lot of people don't understand that there is a leash law in Washoe County, and we're dealing with a lot of dogs off leash and they're getting away, attacking, whatever. Is there anything that we can do or anything that you guys can do to kind of collaborate to maybe kind of enforce leash law a little bit more? I'd appreciate that.
Yeah, I would love to have more help in that area. That's one of the most difficult ones that we get so heavily scrutinized for. And what I think the public doesn't generally understand is that if we have somebody in a park who chooses to not put their dog on a leash and my officer approaches that person, we have no arrest powers. We cannot detain them, and so they can fly the bird and walk away, and we can't do anything about it. So it really is a voluntary, we're asking for voluntary compliance when it comes to leash law, unless we can, get someone to speak to us and, for us to give them a warning or issue them a notice of civil penalty for not having their animal on a leash. Oftentimes what happens is you'll have an incident that escalates into something, an attack or something, and then that's when, we have to issue civil penalties.
These just too carve out on this other stuff. We put some about not being responsible for their dogs. So I just wondering, like, us as citizens, is there any ways that maybe we could help the county kind of enforce, or, well, I can't really say force them to listen to this.
Right.
Is there like any that we can promote that on social media, ritual, maybe something like that? Can we use that and direct to kind of help? I know that minimize finding bites, disease, and just kind of having to really understand that, hey, some people's dogs does blood like there was dogs. Finding minimize just a lot of issues that we do have to like see.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great idea. We did make one social media post not too long ago that got a little bit of traction. I think it was great information to get out into the community, but I think the more of the educational approach that we can take for the community to understand that it isn't just about you and your dog. This is about other people's animals. This is about health and safety. It's about, a lot of other things. It would definitely be beneficial for the community to hear from that perspective. And I do think that there's one of the things that I haven't mentioned is Animal Services is going to be hopefully working with Washoe County Parks, and hopefully we can get it regional with all of our respective city parks to start to work on signage that's universal, that we can use infographic type things to give people some tools and resources to be safe in parks, whether it's an animal park, an off-leash park, a dog park, or not a dog park. How can you be safe in the park with your pets? And so how also can people be safe even if they don't have pets? And so I definitely think that there's opportunity there to work with our community and get our community involved once we get to that place. So we're going to be working with some of our teams and putting some things together over the course of the year. And so we can certainly reach out to the community at that point to help us spread the word, because I think it's really important.
Yeah.
And it's often overlooked by people who feel like their dogs are perfectly fine off leash.
It's frustrating because I see it on Nextdoor, I see it on social media all the time, and I think, because I think that, like, what can we do? Because the people who understand it, see it, they understand it. The people who think that doesn't apply to me, ignore it. It's a frustrating situation for sure.
Oh, great question.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, right. Melissa, yeah, it's right here.
So I'm really happy to hear that you're going to have post-adoption support and a whole behavioral department. I think retention is a huge issue. I think people just think, well, Humane Society's here, we can just drop her off or whatever. Are there any other plans for any other programs or education outreach programs that we can promote?
There's so many, and the moment I start, the words leave my lips, then everyone wants to know exactly when. But I'm going to generalize. Of course, we talked about spay and neuter. Absolutely, that it's first and foremost for us as an organization that we want that to happen, and it will happen. Expanding our community cat TNR program and providing more resources in our community for trapping and sterilization of those cats. Vaccinating them as well, rabies, just keeping them sterilized and safe in the community. Education, absolutely. Education in a variety of ways. So I was just actually speaking to Melissa recently about, we don't have an education program for children. Why do we not have an education program for children, right? Because we need that. And through the children, we're educating the parents. And so post-adoption support, behavior support, oftentimes our adopters, they're first-time adopters. They have never owned an animal before. They don't know what the first thing to do is. So we actually have those mechanisms are in the works right now, and I want to say in not too far off, they will be in place. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, there is a lot, and this organization is over 90 years old. There has been peaks and valleys in our history, and in years past, there was things that we were doing that we weren't doing when I got here a year ago. And so it's almost like starting over and implementing all of these programs that weren't in place. And it's not as easy as just flipping that switch, right? It takes a lot of infrastructure and planning and resources, but we are well on our way. We have come a long ways in a short period of time, and we have a lot more to do, and nobody is complacent over here. So will happen.
Can I just volunteer something? Because I know, you want to...
Great, you want to volunteer? Awesome.
No, in other words, not phrased exactly as a question, but I'm listening to what's being said about retention and food programs. And I just went to another meeting with another group of people and spoke with an attorney and spoke with someone who helps write legislature. Because I actually came up with an idea for a beneficial and benevolent bill. And it would be called the HELP bill. And an acronym, number 1, HELP, E is for equine, L is for livestock, P is for pets, meaning dogs, horses, small animals, and under livestock, llamas, etc. And I would love to speak extemporaneously, and I promise I won't read you pages, but just fine throw out the premise for you to consider this and maybe get behind. Such a bill would establish a state-funded or county-funded, I know you'd like to hear state, support system to aid and help horse, livestock owners, and pet owners when they find themselves under changed circumstances, such as everything we see on Facebook. I have to move. I'm going into an apartment. So they ditch the dog. But if they're, and that's not the circumstance that it meets here, but under changed circumstances of financial duress, loss of income, health problems, and inability to sell animals or to place them into viable licensed adoption programs, or problems arising from advanced age. And I could go further, but I won't do that to you. But the whole idea of this bill would be to assist people, and the outcome of it would be you would have less animals coming into your facilities. If there were ways to do a short term, and with terms by the state to assist people to maintain their animals to get over the hump. And maybe it would be for a limited period of 6 months or a year, but it would be on a payback basis. And so it's something that I am taking forward, having had my own experiences. And I think in the end, everything we're trying to do is benevolent to the animals, but it also has to meet that need to the animal owner and be beneficial and benevolent to them as well. And as sentient beings with animals, the disruption of animals being taken away or ending up in terrible, dire situations, it's hard on everyone. It's hard on the animals. It's hard on the people involved, etc. So I'm going to try to take forward this HELP bill. As only could find funding.
Sounds interesting. Be curious to hear.
It would benefit you all too. For all the posts that we see on Facebook, my circumstances have changed.
Yep.
I lost my job. But it doesn't mean they're not looking for a job, right? But they get rid of their animals.
Right. Well, I will say that the number one reason that the number one hardship that people experience when they are facing or experiencing financial hardship is food. There is food in this community being shared with our community members for their animals. I mean, so I will say, and I'm not saying that there isn't additional needs out there, medical needs, veterinary needs, but the acute need when somebody is in a financially compromised situation is food for their animals. And
Risk for dogs and horses or dogs.
yeah,
I don't see it.
yeah. So,
And this feeling,
okay.
and like what I say, I'm beneficial of that one things. I'm just throwing it out there too, because we're trying to bite that. And I'll sit down. That's sir. Yeah.
Sure.
Thelma?
Okay. Thank you for that.
Almost a great ass.
I'm a kennel permit holder. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm a kennel permit holder here. I'm also a feral cat colony manager here of like 10 or 15 cats, which of course that number goes up and down depending on the season. Very large user of the TNR program.
Wonderful.
One Siamese is caught. So far, my question though is about the feral cat colonies or the feral cat problem. Is one of the reasons that I'm sure the reasons are multifaceted and long-standing and complicated, but one of the things is the way we classify our laws around cats, cat ownership, cat containment. It's obviously very different from a dog, right? Dog, everybody assumes dog has to be contained, dog has to be in your yard, dog should be on a leash. Can't have a leash law for a cat, I get that. However, you can have containment for cats. And is there any thought of changing the way we look at cats in the community and having people have more responsibility for that? We talk about spay and neuter, of course, but we're all on Nextdoor, we're all on social media, we see it every day. My unneutered male cat is gone, he's been gone for 2 weeks. I think, great, I'm gonna have 100 new cat kittens this summer. So are there any thoughts in redefining cat law?
Yes.
That's a Cheyenne question.
Yes.
Drafted?
Yes, and yes. We would love to talk to you and to get your ideas. Geraldine and her team and mine actually had a meeting this morning where we were talking about cats and why does Washoe County accept ear-tipped cats? And the reason being is that we have not prepped and educated our community about the fact that, again, that I go back to what I said earlier, not every lost animal belongs in the shelter, and an ear-tipped cat is not a lost animal. And so we're taking the strides to start working through the messaging, the education about ear-tipped cats. What are they? Leave them where they are. That's one of the joint marketing initiatives that we took on earlier this year. We've also brought in our feral cat partners in the community to help us with the messaging and let's help one another. And I think that the next step that makes the most logical sense is requiring identification on cats. And I don't know if the containment would fly, but there's definitely steps that I think we could be doing to protect cats and to prove ownership of cats, that if someone is feeding 7 cats or 8 cats, there's no way for animal services to prove that those are their cats if there's no identification and no proof of ownership. And so, yes, I do think that there's a lot of room for improvement on how we handle cats in our community.
Yeah.
On the identification thing, I saw somewhere on one of your pages a little while ago about, return rates of stray dogs versus return rates of stray cats, right? Friendly, social, not feral, clearly owned by somebody at some time cats. And I think that was in like the single digits, right? Really low, the return rate of friendly cats who are caught, and not as much microchipped, of course.
But higher than the national average you guys have.
The national average is somewhere around 2 to 3% for cats.
So I think it's really important.
Yeah, and so ours last quarter was 9% for cats. And so it really is important to help our community understand that identification is the most important tool to getting your pet back to you. But also, if you allow your pet outside, these more progressive programs like community cat programs where cats get altered and returned back to their neighborhoods without being held for a stray hold, which is not a program that we currently do, but we are interested in, venturing into, but without having some premises in place for identification and being able to prove ownership, I don't feel that it would be wise to move in that direction because we can't prove that a cat doesn't belong to someone. And so there definitely is room for improvement there. But identification is the most easy way, most simplistic way to get cats back home, but also educating community. I talked a little bit about this at the last town hall. Cat owners don't necessarily know to look for their cats, and they don't necessarily recognize that they're missing for 3 to 4 to 5 days. 5 days expires and your cat has been sitting in Washoe County shelter. It's already being made available to be adopted to someone else. So if you've waited that long, it's too late potentially. And so I think that that educational component is also lost, and we need to focus on that. And so one of the things that Washoe County is going to be doing, and we talked about at the last town hall as well, is focusing on cats this year and initiatives to improve our reunification rates on cats and helping our community, and focusing specifically on cat owners and how can we get more cats microchipped and how can we get more cats into our vaccine clinics so that we can talk to them about the importance of external and microchip ID. And so those are things that will all kind of help tie into improving that reunification rate, even though we are higher than the national average.
Maybe.
Two things real quick. You guys at adoption register the microchip to the person that is adopting? Yes.
Well,
We don't do adoption, so,
Right.
but
Yeah.
our microchips are registered at the time of
Yeah.
the implant.
Fantastic.
and owner information, yes, we have owner information, and it is attached to that microchip.
Okay. Second thing is I have adopted 2 kitties from here years ago that were ear tipped and social. Super, super friendly. Is there a way to educate the public on not approachable feral cat, don't approach, or potentially could be a lost cat? Do you know what
Sorry,
I'm saying?
no.
So I have 2 cats that are ear tipped and they are not feral.
Yeah.
So if they were to go missing and we were telling the public, just leave the ear tipped
Yeah.
where it's at, is there a way to differentiate?
No.
No. Okay.
No, because the reason for the ear tip is that it's a visual marker that we know that that cat has been sterilized, and usually not 100% like is your case. Usually that is a community free roaming cat that is ear tipped.
Okay. Gotcha.
So,
So
yeah.
they don't go outside. I'm just
Okay. But the microchip, are they microchipped? Okay. Well, there you go. Because every cat is scanned. Every animal is scanned when they come in.
Well, and that external ID, I think, would also differentiate if you,
Yeah.
house cats don't, but if you had that external ID on and, you were a member of the public who thought maybe this cat needs help or is lost, right? If you saw that and you saw the ear tip, then it could help to differentiate. And
But not everyone that's the reason for the campaign. Not everyone understands the ear tip. I mean, part of what prompted, we have conversations about community cats pretty regularly, but what prompted that conversation this morning is that a cat keeps getting trapped and brought in, it's ear tipped, it comes to our side, we return it because we know the address, and the very next day it was trapped and brought. It's like, kitty, stop going in the trap, So, yeah. Cool. Is there any other questions? And because right now it's almost 7:15, and so if there isn't any other questions, then I think we could wrap it up. Okay. I think we're wrapping it up. Thank you, everyone, so much for coming. Yeah, really appreciate it.